Oh. I've had a special interest in domestic interiors that also are scenes of horror or of the uncanny. One of the most compelling images when I was a teenager was the movie The Amityville Horror. In that movie, the stairway plays a very important role. It's the central corridor along which a meeting of gazes occurs between the human inhabitants, the family, and this non-human inhabitant, the devil. That's what led me to the idea of recreating the central stairway in the house. So in the final piece, you really have two images. Large projection looking from the top of the stairs down into the entrance, coming through a live feed from inside the diorama. And as you move close to the wall, you find a little hole with light coming out of it. And looking through the hole, you see the diorama itself. You find yourself looking in the opposite direction from the bottom of the stairs, upward towards the second floor. Making images and objects, you can't help but think about what it is you're actually doing beyond merely fabrication. In a way, you're really setting up relationships between objects and images and people. I think of Dutch interior as being an exploration of this kind of most basic and fundamental of relationships, between oneself and another. There's something really seductive about pre-digested images. If you're served literally 500 channels on TV, like, why go out? There's a huge infrastructure that undergirds every individual image we see on TV. And for me, it's very hard to dissociate the single image from that entire network. So, the question always comes up, who's using who? Is the image making us, or do we make images? I'm really attracted to images of amazing spectacle. That's one of the things that brings me to the sports scene.
So if you get a chance.
Especially big events involving mass audiences. But also things like newscasts, beauty pageants, professional wrestling, all kinds of stuff. It seems that there's something inherently compelling about repetition and about the loop. It's like a fireplace, or, it's sort of like a moth to the flame. There's just, something that kind of draws you in, makes you want to just kind of stare at it for a while. I borrow so much of what I use. I think of myself much less as an author and more like a poacher or a translator or a mediator. Last night was really quite unique. I'm actually at the game as opposed to drawing footage from the television. Still, in a way, I feel like I'm watching something like a TV image, and I'm watching material that I've been working with already. The title of Fragment of a Crucifixion is a direct quote from a Francis Bacon painting from the 50s. And like many of Francis Bacon's figures, he's screaming. And the question is, screaming why or because of what? I saw in that image of the basketball player a figure, again, surrounded sensorially by extreme situation, at the center of the attention of thousands of people and under bright lights. For me, what that implies is a kind of sense of the figure, again, dissolving into the accumulation of capital until it becomes an image. Literally, part of it is that he just made $1 million. But it also seems like a very precarious position to be in. There is a kind of humiliation in that process of simply becoming objects of admiration, or people simply becoming consumers. What led me to start working on the long count pieces where the boxer is erased from the ring was a failure that I encountered when I was working on Fragment of a Crucifixion. In that original scene, there were quite a few other players on the court, so I removed the other players, the basketball hoops, and quite a few other details. So I was going very slowly, frame by frame, trying to make sure that there was kind of seamlessness to it. What I found was that there was one particular figure in the image. I could not get erasure of that figure. A few months later, just looking back at it again, I thought in a way there was something really interesting and integral to the material about that kind of evidence of the erasure. So I decided to try to do another piece, the long count pieces that capitalize a bit more on this quality. That's what I think of in a way as craft, you know, building a relationship to the material, discovering the things that it will do despite your will, that may end up being more interesting than what you were trying to will the material to do. I would happily sit in my room and do this work all day. It's a bit like meditation. I also feel like it's a bit like painting or drawing, in the sense that you leave your everyday kind of consciousness of the world and achieve a certain kind of focus. Morning After the Deluge is a direct quote from a painting by Turner. It refers to this investigation of perceptual phenomena in nature and also has a biblical reference, since The Morning After the Deluge is from the story of Noah's Ark. So if you really think about it, it's the morning after the complete annihilation of the world. These days, it's quite idealistic to think of the viewer as being anything but distracted, given the kind of image-saturated world that people function in. In Morning After the Deluge, you have to be there for at least a few minutes, if not for the full 20 minutes, to see the full loop and to get the full sense of the sun rising and setting. In a way, it's not very viewer-friendly. The shot is in real time. It almost looks like nothing's happening. You really have to kind of stand for a while to get the sense that the sun is slowly setting and rising. In the meantime, though, there's a lot of other action that's happening on a much smaller scale. You have birds flying very quickly through the screen. It's almost like at a pixel level, barely there at all, but projected big. This is something that you get to see. You know, this is maybe what you enter in on as a moving image. But then as you sit with it for a while longer, then the bigger movements become accessible to you. I'd like to think that there might be some way to create something that that you could take something away from it, you know, even if you're only there for like a fraction. If you're asking yourself, is there anything beyond television? You could turn off the television and go outside. But I think what's more interesting for an artist is to attempt to answer that question through an exploration of the medium itself. And I'm attempting to answer it through a kind of creation of the illusion.
To learn more about Art21, Art in the 21st Century, and to download the free Educator's Guide, please visit PBS online at pbs.org. Art21, Art in the 21st Century is available on videocassette or DVD. The companion book to the series is also available. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.